Well, good morning. I hope everybody's doing well. I know this last week has been a bit stressful, um, and I am praying for all of your families and you. If you need anything, you know you can reach out to me. But again, if we can do anything, guys, I am so sorry this is all going on. My heart goes out to you. We care greatly. So I'm not being flippant when I say reach out if we can do anything to help. So that's the first thing. We only have one announcement today, and it's about September the 6th, which is Monday. It's Labor Day. We're off. 3-day weekend. A 3-day weekend without a hurricane, though. 3-day weekend didn't feel like a 3-day weekend last weekend, did it? No. But this weekend is a 3-day weekend. We'll resume classes on Tuesday like normal, but for Monday, you're not going to get anything. I will not upload the week at a glance or the assignments until Monday, just like it was Sunday. Oh, Melanie's looking at me. Okay, should I go ahead and open them? Okay, strike that. I'm getting stink face over here, so I will regularly scheduled program. I will open up and do everything on Sunday like normal.
About it. I'll just read I'll just read the chapter and
Well,
study my
I'll go
vocabulary.
ahead and open it. I'm just trying to figure a way to get y'all to relax a little bit. Take a day off, relax. But you know what?
The whole hurricane, I was trying to study my vocabulary at least.
Yeah, those key terms are so important. And whenever you go to your exam, we're going to actually go over our exam, review for the exam for 1 and 2 at the end of this video, but you're going to see key terms there. Key terms are so important. Please, guys, pay attention to the key terms. Okay, so the next thing, do you guys remember when we talked about EMR versus EHR? Do you guys remember any of those things? EMR and EHR are really used interchangeably, but there are differences. So if you see me looking to the left, I have made myself a little list right here, and I'm going to go through that list because I'm not going to remember everything I want to say without looking at something. So EMR stands for electronic medical records. Now, what is an electronic medical record? Is a single practice's digital version of a patient's chart. What is the key word in that? Single. So an EMR is mainly used by providers for diagnosis and treatments. An EMR is not designed to be shared outside the individual practice. Single, not shared outside. So your EMR is something that's just going to be for that one facility, right? So what is an EHR? An EHR stands for electronic health record. It's also a digital version of a patient's chart, but is more inclusive snapshot of the patient's medical history. It's designed to be shared with other providers. So it's not single, it's designed to be shared, which would be multiple. I know that it seems really strange to think about things that way, but I always think EMR single, EHR multiple, and that's how I keep it straight in my mind. An EHR is designed to share records with those practitioners who have approval to have it. And EHRs allow a patient's medical information to move with them to a specialist for labs, imaging facilities, emergency rooms, and pharmacies, as well as across state lines. So your EHR is the large picture, and your EMR is the smaller picture. Did that help clarify a little bit?
It does.
So I always have to, when we wrap back around, I always have to remind myself of these little things because, you know, you forget it after a while. But if I continue to remember EMR is single and EHR is multiple across the board, then it kind of snaps in my head what that actually means. So any questions about that? Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do for class, I know we're kind of chopping it up a little bit today, but these are just, you know, little things. This is not like coding where we opened our coding books and we coded everything, right? This is more information that you just need to know. And knowing about the EMR versus the HMR is so very important when it comes to your NCCT. There are going to be questions, and we'll be going over some of those things at a later time. But this next thing I want to do, I want you to pay very close attention to it. It is in a vet's office, but I want you to pay attention because I want you to be thinking, what if this happens in a medical facility that I'm the receptionist at or I'm greeting the patient at? And I just want you to be aware that it can happen. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go through this and then we're going to talk about it. So were y'all able to see what happened? So what happened was she got free of him and she slipped a note. So believe it or not, I've been showing this video for 4 years now because I feel like it's so important because I would have never thought about this. So whenever I saw this, it really did impact me and I had to start thinking, okay, what would I do if that ever happened? So if you're the receptionist or you're the medical assistant, or if you're coming in contact with the patient at all and they slip you that note, do you say, hey lady, what did you hit me this note for? No, you need to always make sure that you're discreet, Because if somebody's slipping you something to the side, would you have ever thought about that if we would be talking about it right now? I just never would have thought of that. I guess I come from a time where that was just like, you know what, that would never happen. So it opens my eyes to, we need to be aware when we're in our medical facility that someone may need help and they may be telling us in a way that we're not adjusted to. So let me ask, okay, so I am a patient and I'm slipping you the note and it says, please help. My boyfriend has a gun and he's abusing me. And we're going to sit down in the reception area. Tell me, what's something that you would, what's the first thing you would do after reading the note?
Notify the police.
You absolutely need to notify the police, but before you do that, you need to notify your office manager or who's ever in charge, because all of a sudden you have a situation that's not just going to affect this one person, but your entire office, right?
Right.
So you've got to figure out a way to separate the other patients that are in the waiting room from the dangerous situation without alerting him, right?
Right.
So your office manager is going to call the police. Well, of course it could vary, you know what I mean? But we're just kind of talking through the situation. So how do you think that you could, without causing alarm, get those patients to safety? What do you think we could do?
Depending on how many is in the office at the time, you could either put them in separate rooms or put them in a certain area where they're safe away from whatever is going on at that time.
Right. So you would start pulling their charts and pulling them back to the back one by one, as to not cause alarm, to get them separated from the danger. Okay, so now we're just talking scenario. We're not talking, we know exactly what's going to happen or anything like that. So let's just talk scenario. So then you just have the abused lady and the dangerous man that's with her in the waiting room. You could call that patient to the back, and if he tries to walk, you could say, I'm sorry, sir, we're going to bring her right back out. We're going to take her blood pressure and her weight. And then all of a sudden, what have you done? You have separated the patients from danger. But the biggest thing is your initial reaction needs to be, go to the office manager, stay calm, start that problem solving of what's next, what's next, what's next. But you can't show any fear or emotion or get, you know what I mean? You can't alert him that you know something's going on. Now, I'm telling you, hopefully nothing like that ever happens, but I think it's so important to have the conversation so you can always think. So if something like that does come up, you can say, we talked about that. Okay, so what do we do? We've got to be discreet, first of all, because if you set him off or he knows something's up, what's that going to do? That's going to trigger him. But, you know, it's just like the same thing of whenever, you know, now you have to do shooter training in schools. What happens if a shooter comes in? So when you go to your facilities, I'm sure there are going to be things to train about, but I just wanted you to be able to have that to think about. Now, what's the likelihood of that happening? Probably not huge, but you know, I just always like all those tools in our toolbox so that you can think about, you know, what's going on and, you know, and have kind of a frame of reference. But that was a really scary video when I saw that, because I never even thought that that could happen. Okay, anything you guys want to add or anything that you want to tell me about that's happened to you before that you've had to deal with maybe?
I've done with armed robberies, bomb threats, and all that before. So
I think I've been living under a tree. I've not had to deal with anything like that. Okay, well, I'm going to expand on that just a little bit. And now I want to talk about, and we're going to talk about this a lot, because when you work in a medical facility, you have to answer the phone a lot, don't you?
Yes.
Every time you answer the phone, it's not going to be pleasant, correct? So we need to be able to begin to develop some personal barriers and some tools to handle people that are not pleasant. Because what are we going to be dealing with a lot? Our sick people. I'm going to just give you an example of something that a few things that's happened to me. I was working my accounts receivable, which means I had to call people that had a balance on their account for my facility. So I called this nice lady and talked to her, or just said, "Hello, Mrs. Johnson. How are you today?" "I'm good. This is Marcia with whatever clinic. I'm calling to ask you about your balance today. You owe $8,000.50, and we were just wondering if you were getting your statements." That's how I always approached. "We were wondering if you were getting your statements." Because, sometimes people don't get it. And whenever you put it that way, they're not going, "You're not saying I didn't pay," that you're just asking them, "Have you received your statement?" Well, she got very upset when I asked her if she had received her statement. She started to scream and yell and say lots of unnecessary things to me. And I just kept saying, "Do you think I just said, 'Well, I'm not talking to you,' and hang up?" Of course not, because she's fire, right? I can't throw fuel. You've got to find some flour, some water, some sunshine. Instead of being angry with her for being angry with me, because I knew she wasn't angry with me, she was angry with her situation, I kept saying, "I'm so very sorry. I'm so very sorry that that you're upset. Let's talk about it so I can see what I can do to help you." I use all those calming things to de-escalate the situation, right? Come to the end of the conversation, when she finally calmed down, she couldn't pay anything because she was terminal cancer and she was passing away very quickly. So the anger wasn't towards me. It was the fact that she has all of these bills. She has no family. She's no job, and she's not going to make it. And she knows all of these things. And today I'm the person that she gets to talk to about it. So at the end, I was able to document the patient's account because, of course, when I pulled that up, it didn't show me she was terminal cancer. It was a cardiology bill. I didn't go dig because that was not my job at the time. I wasn't coding something. I only needed to make her aware that she had a balance with the physician. But I was able to document patient cannot pay because she's terminal cancer, only been given 3 months to live. And so the next time the AR came around and that balance showed, I had a note there telling me what the problem was. But by the end of the conversation, she actually told me what a blessing it was that I had called. And she was so glad that she was able to talk to me that day, because I was just able to say, "I'm so very sorry. I cared about what she was going through." And she could just tell that. So I want to tell you guys that so many times when we talk to someone and they're angry, they're not angry with us, they're angry about what's going on. And you have to start talking to yourself now about how you're going to handle angry, sick people. You're going to have sad, sick people. Do you think it's easier to deal with angry or sad? To me, it's easier to deal with sad.
Yeah.
I would rather deal with sad, and I can deal with sad, but angry makes me want to go, "Oh, yeah. I want to cry," or I want to get angry, right? And neither one of those emotions are going to help in your situation. It doesn't matter what job you get at a medical facility. You guys, I'm going to remind you, I worked in a billing and coding company. I didn't even see patients. I was just on the phone. And I still had to deal with a great amount of unhappy people, because when they owe money, they are happy about it. I'm not happy when I owe money either. But it's not personal. Excuse me, it's not personal. We have to begin to really take a close look at our personalities and the things that really kind of trigger us, and start working on those things now, because if you make a patient mad, you think it's going to go back to a doctor? Well, yeah, it's going to go back,
Yeah.
especially if you're working in a small facility and you've called Mr. Jones and he owes $20 and he's ticked off about it. And then you were rude and said, well, if you don't pay your bill, you can't come back. That's not going to, you're going to always have to handle it with kind professionalism. Mr. Jones, I know that $20 can be a lot of money. Can you pay $5 today? Would that work for you? And then next month you could pay $5, whatever your facility's rules are for you getting the money. You know, they're going to give you, you know, the rules and regulations. We took small payments. But any questions about that? All right, well, let's review our test. I'm on the wrong, yeah, because our test is today. So it's a multiple choice test. It's on chapter 1 and 2. And so I am just going to kind of go over them and we're going to talk about them. So the first one says a collection of an individual's health record information is termed. So the collection of an individual's health information is termed a patient chart, a patient record, electronic health record, EMR, or all of the above.
All the above.
What you think, Mel? Do you think all of the above?
Yeah.
It is all of the above. So don't let it trick you to think about each thing. So is healthcare information found in a patient chart? Yes. Patient record and a patient chart can be used interchangeably. So yes. Electronic health record. Remember we talked about that at the beginning of the video. So of course it's going to have individuals' healthcare information in that and in an EMR. So if you just needed to think about those things individually, they're all included. Okay. Which is of the following is not found in a patient record? Immunization records, operative reports, a living will, or patient statement?
Living will.
No, a living will is in the record. Optima report.
Well, can an operative report be found in the EHR, which remember spreads all the way across
That's
the
true.
record?
So what was the other ones?
Immunization record or patient statement?
Patient statement.
Patient statement.
Yeah, you're not going to have patient statements in there.
Right.
So you know, that's what I love the fact that we're stopping and we're thinking and we're talking about each thing individually. Now, if you have a living will, it's going to be in your EHR records, but if you don't, there's not going to be one there. It's not required. Right. Excuse me. So an example of a HIPAA form that is included in the medical record would be a HIPAA form, a patient information sheet, a living will, a notice of privacy practice acknowledgement, or informed consent forms. So what is HIPAA about? Privacy, right?
Privacy.
So HIPAA is going to go directly with that notice of privacy practices acknowledgement.
Okay.
So that, and if you ever see it listed as NPP, that's what it is, notice of privacy practices. And I think if you stop and you think about what HIPAA is, then you're gonna know what goes with it. Okay. And an individual who is responsible for recording data in the patient record is called a transcriber, health records clerk, data entry clerk, documenter, or guarantor.
Documenter.
Yep. So I'm just going to ask a couple of more because I'm not going over all of them. Okay. In SimChart for the medical office, a patient visit with the provider is called a visit, a progress note, an encounter, or an interaction.
Read the question again.
In SimChart for the medical office, a patient visit with the provider is called a visit, a progress note, an encounter, or interaction.
Encounter?
That is right. It's called an encounter. So an encounter form or a super bill is that little page that you see them checking and writing on, and he's checking the CPT codes and he's writing down those diagnoses for you. But that is either a super bill or an encounter form. Again, there's so many words that are used interchangeably. Okay, so we're going to do one more. Okay. The fixed amount of money a patient is contracted to pay out of pocket at each visit is called
Copay.
copay. Again, key terms. If you see every question, if you know your key terms. All right. So tell me, what makes someone an established patient?
Within 3 years. Wait. Yeah.
4 years. 3 years to 3 years.
3 years. It's a
Okay.
person who's been seen in your facility for a consecutive 3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Right. Now, if you have 3 doctors in your facility and Mr. Jones can't see Dr. A, but he can see Dr. P, is he going to be a new patient?
No.
No, because they're in the same group,
Same
right?
office. Right.
But if Mr. Jones comes to see Dr. A, B, and C, he's been seeing them for a year, but he don't like them, and he's going to go see Dr. H, even though he's a primary. If he's a different group, he's going to be a new patient.
A new patient. Right.
Okay, let me ask, I'm just going to throw a question out there. What do you think the biggest drawback is for facilities to get an EHR system? What do you think the initial drawback is? Why do you think they don't want to do it? Most of them have it now, but if they don't, why don't you think they would want to do that? It's for the initial investment. It's expensive at first.
Right.
So I want you to remember that initial investment is a drawback for people getting EHRs. All right, do you guys have any questions?
No.
Well, I hope you learned something and you enjoyed class.
Now I do have a question.
Okay.
With the little, I guess with the little practice that we've been doing on the patients and filling in their charts and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have, I've been guessing pretty much through it, practicing, doing when we have to send it in, how do we send in what is asked in the assignment?
Okay, on these little, I call them brown boxes because they're brown. These little EHR exercises, you're going into a simulation playground. So that means you're playing, you're practicing, you're getting to know everything. So that's why I'm asking you for something, even though you're doing those, I may ask you a question for grading, because that's really not anything I can go in and grade, because it's just simulation. So right now you're just going to keep on where you are. Now, next module, you'll be doing SimChart for the medical office, and you will be able to save those assignments and save those patients. And you will have little pre-tests, and that's where your grades are going to come from. So I told y'all these were going to be totally different than what y'all are used to.
Right.
But right now, I want y'all to get to know that simulation playground. Look at your form repository. If I ask you to compose a doctor's message to a patient, or a patient message to a doctor, or if I tell you to fill out a referral form, you're going to be looking in that form repository. Get on in there and click those buttons. You can't mess anything up.
Right.
It's your playground. I want you to get to know everything that's there. You can get in and make up patients and put in. You don't have to, that's what it's there for. It's for you to play in, for you to get to know. Because even when you go to your facility, whatever EHR they have, it's not going to be exactly like sim charting, right? But all those functions are exactly the same. My ladies that get on, I have several ladies doing reception. I have a lady that does billing. I have a lady that does coding, and they all have to work in an EHR system. And it's all different, but it has the same functions, so they knew it just like that. I had a student that went straight into a job and was able to make patient appointments immediately because she went in, she played, and we did the sim charting, and it just boosted her where she needed to be as far as front office goes. So get in and play with it, enjoy it. Don't stress. I keep telling everybody, have a good time with this. This is fun. I enjoy this. This is something you'll never be able to do again because they're not going to let you do it at the facility and you just play in it.
Right.
So have fun playing in it now.
Yeah.
So
I did send some of the lesson or what we had to go into with the EHR. I did send it in. I kind of snapshotted and sent it in under the lesson. So I just wanted to know,
Yeah. Well, there's no way because that's plugged in under your name. Now, I don't know if you guys saw that I actually assigned Taliber Nasser. Whenever you click on that, whenever we start the next module, remember last time I said don't do it. Of course, I've had several get in and try to do it, but they haven't opened their book yet to be able to get that information. That being said, whenever you save those patients on the sim chart, not in the playground, I can actually pull your assignment up and see where you put what where.
Okay.
But I will tell you that your grades are going to come from the little pre-tests that come before you get into your sim charting. Because can you imagine trying to grade 110 sim charting exercises with 68 students? Y'all want to hear? So your grades are going to typically come from that for this next module. This module, you have regular tests and regular exercises. So just when I tell y'all, get in and get to know it, because if you don't do that now, when you get to your next module, you're going to have to be playing catch up to learn it.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Ladies, have a great day. It was great to be on Zoom with you guys.
Okay.
See you next Tuesday.
All right.
Happy
have a good
Labor
day.
Day.